This is about what just happened this weekend and what's going to happen next weekend. We're talking about Blake Snell, still unsigned. We're talking about another club entering the negotiations, the Phillies. We're talking about the Giants, who looked like they were in on Blake Snell and now seem to be out on Blake Snell with the arrival of Matt Chapman. It's really been interesting, John, as to how this has all changed. The Phillies today signed Zach Wheeler to a $40 million extension. Now, does that take the Phillies out of Blake Snell? Because the Phillies spent a lot of money early on in the offseason with Aaron Nola. We don't know whether the Phillies still want to get involved with Scott Boras and Blake Snell there. The big issue is Scott Boras, if he's going to go from a 7-year offer at $210 million, if he's willing to take 3 years at 90, he wants opt-outs after the first and second year. Well, if I'm a GM, because he was offered by the Padres, you have to give up 2 draft picks to get him. And if it pushes you into the next tier in the luxury tax, you have to pay a significant tax. This is why the Yankee deal, even though it looked fascinating, doesn't make any sense. If they sign Snell to $30 million a year, they pay a $33 million a year tax per year on Snell. They lose $100,000 international signing money, and they're going to lose slots in the amateur draft. They dropped 10 slots because they've been over the luxury tax for such an extended period of time. Same thing with the Giants. And why would you sign anybody and give them an opt-out after the first year, considering all the things you have to forfeit in addition to paying Blake Snell $30 million per year? So I don't know if Boras has overplayed his hand, if the general manager's standing up and saying, not on my watch. I'm not going to do this because of the massive cost around just the contract. It's going to be fascinating to see. And I guess the question is Snell made a bad decision?
Well, I think Blake's got a lot of things on his plate. He and his girlfriend are getting ready to welcome a child here before too long. He's up in the Pacific Northwest coaching youth baseball right now. He's a good guy, Lee, and I certainly wish him the very best. But, I think Boras probably overplayed his hand. I mean, when you look at Blake Snell, as well as he pitched last year and as well as he pitched that year in Tampa when he won a Cy Young, those were his only 2 good years in the big leagues, to be honest with you.
Yeah, up and down like the stock market.
But you know what? You hope that what you saw last year, he can repeat. And I think Ruben Niebla did a really nice job with him. I think he was very well focused. I think he was a more rested pitcher a year ago. I know he got away from playing a lot of those video games late at night. He used a lot of energy up on that. Right now, the way things are going right now, I could see him maybe getting even a 1-year deal and try to replay this and go for it again next year. Right now, I mean, the clock is ticking.
But here's the issue, Coach. Even if it's a 1-year deal, somebody can afford 30, you're going to pay the contract, and you got to give up the draft pick compensation of 2 and a 5 for 1-year rental. I don't think that's not a good business venture.
Well, the only way you do that is if you got a team and you feel this guy can put you over the top to where you can win the World Series. And what team is that? The New York Yankees. Yeah. Okay. The Dodgers, I think they're done. I thought the Giants were definitely in play, but, signing Matt Chapman, that's probably taking them out of the Blake Snell sweepstakes. And, we keep hearing the Angels are kicking tires, but, does Artie Moreno really want to do that? Does he want to get into another long-term contract? So, I think the time's running out on Blake Snell and Scott Boras right now. It may end up being a very short, maybe a 3-year deal with a couple of opt-outs in it. We'll have to wait and see.
And speaking of San Francisco, John Riley's team, they signed Soler, they signed the Japanese star Lee, and now they've signed Chapman to a 3-year deal, but he can opt out after 1 and 2, and they're going to have to give up draft picks. That's a huge gamble. And 2 of the pitchers they got, Rob Ray and Jordan Hicks, have a bad history of injuries and might not be ready to start the season. So I don't understand what Zaidi has done as general manager in terms of where he's spending his resources. To me, it's kind of weird what the Giants have done.
What's really funny to me? These opt-outs. I'm not a big opt-out guy. I mean, Bryce Harper, give him credit. When he went to Philadelphia, he goes, I want to be in Philadelphia. And he had no opt-outs. Yep. Now, he wants to play till he's 40 or 41, and he'd like to probably go back to the table and renegotiate. But, I look at a guy like Matt Chapman. Matt Chapman last year in April and May was as good an offensive performer in baseball as there was. And then all of a sudden the roof caved in on him. Last 4 months, he was awful.
Yeah.
I mean, his OPS and average.
It was 216, 209.
It was brutal. A lot of swing and miss. But what cracks me up about these opt-outs, it's in the player's favor. If he has a great year, he can opt out. If he has a bad year, he's not going to opt out because nobody's going to give him any kind of contract. So that team ends up getting stuck. I mean, these opt-outs are the worst thing ever for a ball club.
So you're a baseball fan. Fans Forum chat room is open. Feel free to jump on board. You want to respond to what we've just said about the Padres, what we said about the Dodgers, and obviously Scott Boras and company. So we're going from baseball